Okay, call to order. Anyone have a chance to look through the agenda, any additions or deletions?
Yep.
Hearing none, motion to accept. Counselor Warwick, are you with us? Counselor Warwick, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, in favor of motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Who made the motion, sorry?
Counselor Thurl. Delegations, Mr. Moore, would you like to speak?
You just don't think, Mr. Moore, that you can,
Follow up.
follow up last month's presentation.
You
wanted to say something, but I thought we lied.
are live. Public presentation, second opportunity. Passing it. Everyone had a chance to look through the minutes of the meeting?
Yep.
Okay, motion to accept the minutes as presented. Counselor Bowden. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Payables. Questions?
Just a couple I want to point out that might be unusual and can answer questions. Just wanted to make sure everyone was clear. The one on page 1 from Fox Canada for solar crosswalk is the second piece of the crosswalk we're going to be putting in on Palliser Trail at 2nd Avenue by the County Gray. So as part of the pathway system trail there, we're gonna put crosswalk in. It will have the flashing lights on both sides of the road. So we used the one that was in the middle here. It'll go on one side, and this is the new one for the second side. So that's what that's for. Further down on that page, there's 1-2 Duragard fence, TC Energy. So we've been leasing the whole camp property, for lack of a better term, to TC Energy probably since September, October, and they had an incident with the fence. So we fixed the fence, paid it, and we've invoiced them, and they paid for the fence. So the Elks table's right behind that, just for information for people. So we do rent the Elks tables on behalf of the Elks for community events and things. And then at the end of the year, Raylene will tally up how many times the tables were rented. And I think we pay the Elks $2 per table, and we pay them, and they're responsible for keeping the tables in good shape and going forward with that. So wanted to bring those ones to your attention. I don't know if there's any others, but I'm certainly can answer any questions council may have.
There's one there
Councilor Thurl.
Counselor Thurl.
The coordinator program expenses like for the. Is that $41,000 over? So,
Oh, that's statement of revenue.
yeah,
Okay, we'll get to
Get
that.
that out.
oh, okay. See, you answered the first question with the first question.
I just wanted people to know what, we're not putting the crosswalk back in. It's
Yeah,
in different location, different style.
yeah.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion
Well,
to?
or is that the motion or question, Councilor Bowe?
I had a question. I was just curious, with Doug's town office rental space, is that just a maintenance, or is that converting it to LED or something? Or?
Well, we had a couple of ballasts go.
Okay,
So when he does, rather than putting in, he puts an LED fixture in, so.
okay. Yeah, I know that was good. Thank you.
Any others?
Oh,
Counselor Bowden?
sorry. I have a question about, the phones and the different rates that are applied and, just what makes the difference between, 195, 180, 90, and $60 rates for the phones, the phone allowances?
So pretty much every staff person does have a phone allowance. They provide their own phone. The company doesn't provide them with a phone. Primarily, directors get the 195, which is $65 a month. The foreman, so there's a couple of foremen, they get $60 a month, so 180, and then the other operators or staff get $20 a month. And there are some that get $30.
Yeah,
Primarily the admin people who take phone calls after hours to whether the pool machine isn't working, they can't cash out, whether Centennial Place is having issues cashing out, so we've got those 4 different levels.
and why the different levels, just based on?
Just based on the
amount
number
of
of
use?
amount of use and amount of volume, yeah.
And so they're different, they're not different programs or coverage, well, I guess there is if there's more hours allowed.
Yeah, just based on responsibility and more calls.
Okay, that was all I needed. That.
Okay, recommend motion that council accept the accounts payable listing for general accounts 42479 to 42510 and direct deposits for 001644 to 001744. Motion, Council Thorough. All in favor?
Yes.
Carried. Statement of revenue.
Is that where the question comes now?
That's where your question.
Oh. Yeah, I was
So-
looking at
So
that.
that one I remembered, so the difference there, Councilor Thorough, is partway through the year, we got that funding to do the Celebrate Canada, which we ended up using Music in the Park and the Gord Bamford concert. So we got $70,000 there. So of course, that's where we put the expenditures, was to that program coordinator component,
okay.
so.
And there's one there, the seasonal, park seasonals, that was 31,000 and some dollars over budget. You know, and the regular salaries
That's
were
in the,
16,000 over.
that's in the parks.
Yeah,
So what generally happens if you look at some of the other categories? When parks are paid, for example, they try and code themselves on the hours as to where they worked, but some of our benefits don't transpire. So if you look, there'll be no benefits at ball diamonds, no benefits at soccer fields, different places. And so that's where those overages go back to.
oh, okay.
It's too bad they didn't have a different, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, sir. Council.
it's too bad there isn't a different way, so it identifies it, so we don't keep, I know I ask pretty much every meeting about it and that it's a little bit clearer and more transparent and such.
Yeah,
But
but
it's-
when we do the final one and make all the journal entries, then it's all done and complete, and possibly with our new payroll system, that might be an option as well, so.
Mhm. And sorry, I have a question about the subdivision as well, the repairs, 154,000, almost 155,000.
That was the demolition, the end of the demolition projects that didn't get completed in 2021.
Okay. So, and the subdivision is actually, building place?
Which,
This is on page 9 of 14.
so the question is though, So the only expenses on that page, so the subdivision other are just some tax adjustments that were made on town property.
Mhm.
The 154 was the
The demo.
demolition, and then we had to order some mapping from Palliser for the Mackenzie subdivision, so that's the cemetery, so.
Okay,
But yeah, so maybe our new program might do a little bit better job on allocating benefits, so.
yeah, it's just really confusing, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing me ask, and I'm sure everybody is tired of hearing me ask about it, and. I have one about the arena contracted services, the 15,000, would that be the condenser then? On page 9 and 14?
No, so contracted services. That will be a whole bunch of different things,
Okay.
but the big jump, the big difference in it is when we rented the ice from Delia.
Okay,
So basically, we build minor hockey and figure skating ourselves, and we paid. We made one check to the Delia Ag Society, so that's why it's significantly over. Is there's a check to the Delia Ag Society, I think, just for close to $12,000. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, where did it go?
Counselor Bowden,
Hector King Hunter Park salaries, there's quite a drop in the actual salaries.
So
Is that
again,
a
that
volunteer?
goes back a little bit to Counselor Thurl's question. So when we establish the budget, we establish a certain amount. But when they actually fill out their timesheets and code their timesheets, as you can see, our full-time staff spend very little time there.
Yes,
And so that's why Parks is probably a little bit higher, because things like this are a little bit lower, so.
yeah, it just seemed unusual.
Yeah,
that it's so much less.
Yeah,
than-
our salaries are pretty accurate in terms of where they worked. Certainly, we're not always 100% on, because when we establish a budget, we kind of put a percentage, but maybe they spend more time here than normal or less time than normal, and we try and adjust them slightly every year to bring them into a different, closer percentage, but so at Hector King Hunter Park, our full-time guys work there.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Counselor Warwick, any questions?
No questions.
Okay,
Counselor Thurl, are you done? You told me you had a whole page.
Oh, you guys are.
Oh, okay.
What you asking my question? That worked out.
I gotta save some for the community service board.
Oh,
recommended motion that council accept the state revenue and expense for report December 2022 for the information motion. Counselor Murphy, all in favor?
Yes.
Carried. Budget overview.
yeah, no, go ahead, Counselor Wood.
I also have another suggestion, as far as the budget overview. The first column is the budget, the second column is the actual, and the other, revenue and expense, it's actual is first and budget is second. Could it not be the same?
Possibly, yeah.
It would just be nice if it was, if it doesn't affect administration,
I could do.
sorry. It
No,
just
that's
makes it easier, then you're
Okay.
thinking everything is sort of lines up.
So the other comment I usually make on both the statement of revenues and expenditures and the budget overview is, I know it says it's till the end of December, but it's not truly to the end of December in terms of, we will still have invoices we're paying, we will still have revenue that's coming in, you know, whether it be investment, whether it be, special areas, we have to bill them for fire cost share, airport cost share. So we do have, you know, we do have some revenue, some significant revenue still outstanding. We still have another utility bill, that'll be going out here in the next week. So it's not quite, accurate both on, revenue and expenditures and until we probably get through till the end of January, then most everything's been established, so.
Coach Bolden, sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to make a comment how great it is to see Box Lake doing so well. With 120,000 brought in, and I'm assuming that's pretty much the full year, that there may not be that.
Yeah, no, that would be done, yeah.
So it's great to see that, and I would imagine that with the expense of adding the electrical, that could go up even higher.
Yeah, I don't know if the electrical changed too much, make it a different destination people choose. We were fortunate that we had, the wind farms
Yeah.
here and we had basically probably 3/4 of our sites, especially our full service sites, were full from April till middle of October when we kicked them out. So that was a
One-off.
good one-off and a good anomaly to have, so.
So is that gonna be promoted then as far as more electrical sites available?
Well, we're not adding any more electrical sites,
No, but you just
we're upgrading,
upgrading.
Yeah.
The upgrade,
yeah. Yeah, when we get that completed, so.
perfect. Thank you.
Anything else? Recommend a motion that council accept the budget overview for 2022 for information. Councilor Bowden, all in favor?
Yes.
Carried. Committee reports.
So we got
Oh, sorry.
capital budget to.
Sorry, buddy. Capital budget, sorry about that. I'm just trying to get through it as quick. as
Yeah.
possible.
I don't know if there's anything further to add. We tried to put some descriptions beside everything where it's at. And go from there. As you can see, some projects will be carried forward, some were on hold for 23, and the ones that were complete or partially completed. So if they're not complete, we'll transfer those dollars into reserve to complete them and then pull the dollars back out.
With the meter reading, I'm assuming that's water meters,
Yes,
obviously.
yeah.
There isn't technology out there to do that automatically.
Well, we sort of do it automatically. Depends on how much money you want to spend on the technology. You
No,
can,
that's
you
what
can
I'm
have it, you can have it set up if you've got a booster, big enough booster that you could sit here and do it from here. Push the button and it technically would read all the meters. We haven't gone to that step, so when our guys go out, it takes them about a half a day and they go out and they have to go to different portions of town with their reader, press the reader, and then it will load all the reads up, and then they'll go
Okay.
to a different section. So they have to go to 8 or 9 different routes to load them all.
Yeah, no, I just know at the shop, they physically have to read the meters, so.
Yeah, there's somewhere we have to, depending on the size of the meter and the location. I know some of them are deep in a basement, almost like in a vault, and
Telus is another one.
they don't read very well. So we've got some that we do have to read
Okay.
manually. But we are waiting. We ordered that meter. It's a new reader device because our old one is obsolete. Software and technology, again, they won't manage that one. If something goes wrong, it's done. So we ordered this one. It'll be coming up a year. We've been told we're supposed to get it in March of 23, but it'll be a year since we ordered it. That's one with a supply chain problem. So knock on wood, our existing meter has continued to function and hasn't cause us any issues that we would be having troubles to get parts for, so.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Counselor Crowe?
the water bills, on vacant lots. How's that work?
So if the policy that council, previous council passed, I think in 2012, basically says that, if you're hooked into the line, you will be responsible and you will pay the minimum fixed fees for water, sewer, garbage. Even if you're not using any consumption, you're still there because that's we use those dollars to replace and repair the line. So if you aren't paying into that line and everybody else is fixing that line, you're getting the benefit of it. The only thing you don't pay is you don't pay the consumption.
So what determines when you get a bill on it? That's what I'm asking.
So what determines is whether you were receiving a bill in 2012 for water service. When there were some properties back then when it changed that might have been vacant. We considered grandfathered until they actually turned the system on and used water. But I would think there's not very many properties in town that would not be receiving a bill. And I know we do get that question. That's probably not that we get that question a lot, but I probably get that question a handful of times a year from a resident who either knocked their building down, and they're still getting a water bill, or what would be another example? Or we used to have a lot of snowbirds who were gonna be going away for 3 months or 4 months, and they wanted their water shut off and not paying until they get back. Council, I think in 2012, may had a policy to change that. We have had, in my time here, I tell people who are residents who have issues with that policy decision to make their case and come to before council. And I said, council has the authority to change the policy. I think we've had 1 or 2 residents come to council, primarily snowbirds, asking for that policy to be amended, and councils of the day have said, no, we like the way the policy sits. We have a new council here. I can't speak to how this council would deal with it, but if somebody wanted to ask council to reconsider that policy, that's always an option. But I tell people when they come in and say, well, I don't want to pay this, I'm not using any water there. I said, I can't do anything about that. That's a policy direction from council, and I have to follow that policy. So
Well, they still have the infrastructure.
the infrastructure is
It's
still there, which is valuable to their lot, because then it's considered a serviced property versus an unserviced property.
And I did that out of town as well. I had natural gas, never hooked up to my acreage, but for 3.5 years, I paid for the privilege of having access to it.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't use it. And I'm so glad I did, because once the property was sold, it was sold with natural gas.
Yeah, it's an asset, yeah.
So it was an asset,
Yeah.
but it was $30-40.
Yeah, because
But
if you
at the end of the day,
if you have a piece of property that isn't serviced.
Yeah.
And someone wants to live there, then there's the expense of, $10,000 or $12,000 to put your service line in and connect, so.
Yeah.
So that's the answer, Councilor Crowe. I hope I gave it to you. I know some of our residents don't like that answer, but that's the only answer I can give them now. But I do encourage them, if they want to put their case together and come before council and request that the policy be amended, that's always their option.
Like, I can see a water bill, but a garbage bill,
Well, the challenge with the garbage, both the residential pickup and the regional waste, is that we don't know if people are in the house, out of the house. So we just basically take both the regional waste fee and the residential pickup, we take the amount that we're being charged and we just divide it amongst all of the properties equal. So there's some people that I'm not saying it's the fairest way, but it's the easiest way. I look at places like Friesen Brothers, the school, the hospital. They all pay $44 regional waste fee. I pay $44 regional waste fee.
Every business pays for waste, even though we had to buy our own containers and pay someone to pick it up.
Yeah,
Because it was just included as part of being in the community.
well, the regional waste is the cost for the commission. So I know people say, I pay someone to pick up my garbage. I know, but it gets delivered and the end product has to be dealt with, and that's the cost. So that's how we deal with garbage. I will say, Councilor Crowe, I don't know if it's the fairest way. It's certainly the easiest way administratively versus trying to get into, you're a heavy user, you're a medium user,
I
you're a
was
light
gonna
user.
say, like, you, even if you
And-
tried to do it off a tax assessment, like, for example, my shop being a fairly large piece of property, I generate 3 bags of
Yeah,
garbage a
yeah,
week
yeah.
versus the hospital who's, you
Yeah,
know,
I agree, 100%.
yeah. So how would you decipher
The
which?
school, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some people who definitely benefit from it, the large garbage users definitely benefit from it. So I don't know if that answers your question, Councilor Kroll, but that's my
That's the
best
rationale.
attempt. Yeah, that's the rationale, and I think we've been operating like this for a while, 10 years. So,
And we as a business do the same. We have a dumpster, we pay the rent on the dumpster, and they come and pick it up and we pay that,
Yeah.
and then our taxes or our
The water
bills and everything.
you pay the 44 of the regional waste fee, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we collect the $350,000 the commission charges us.
$44 at a time.
Yeah,
Okay, can we get a motion to accept the fourth quarter capital budget update? December 2022 for information. Counselor Farrell. All in favor?
Yes.
Carried. Committee reports. None.
none.
Senior administrative or official reports.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to touch on a few things in my report. So the signage project, we had another meeting today. Yes.
Would you like me to ban away it for you?
It's okay. We had another meeting today about screw piles and when they go in. And through the discussion, the signs are being manufactured now, so not ready. The screw piles were supposed to come out they're supposed to come out earlier. They were bumped. They were gonna come out the last week in January and start putting the screw piles in. Then the signs wouldn't actually be out and installed till the last week in March. They're still manufacturing them. So we had discussion today, and I think the best option that we've moved to is they're gonna come out and do the screw piles later, closer to when the signs will be installed, because our concerns, a lot of the signs are on our roadways, on the edge of our roadways where we're windrowing, whether we're putting snow. We'd have to go now, if they were doing it at the end of January, we'd have to go and clear the snow so they could put the screw piles in. Then
Mark
it
them.
would be 2 months, and whether we get a bunch more snow and we got more windrows, they're gonna get covered up. Then you go back to clean them again. And hopefully when you're cleaning them, you don't catch the 2 or 3 inches of the screw pile that's above. So the sign company believes that they'll be able to tighten that time frame up. So we might be doing the screw piles earlier in March, and a week or 2 later, they'll put the signs.
Would it not be more beneficial to wait till?
Well, the challenge with that, Mr. Mayor, is the grant fund
Yes,
needs it spent by the end of March.
okay, sorry,
Yeah, so, yeah, in a perfect world, we wait till the frost is out of the ground and do that, so. Screw pile company said they'll pre-drill through the frost and do that, so we're trying to tighten up the window so that there's not as much time that things could go wrong. Cause they were gonna put cones on them, well, cones might just be picked up and moved. Might be, you know, and I guess with so many of our directional signages being close to, you know, especially Pioneer Trail, Fox Lake Trail, Palliser Trail, that, you know, they'll just be in the way. So that's where that's at. Just a reminder to council, the land use bylaw review. It'll be a week from today at Palliser Regional Municipal Services at 5 o'clock. So we anticipate it will be a full evening till probably 9. We will provide, pardon me,
That's past my bedtime again.
we will provide a working supper. So just want to make sure you all had that in your calendar. I think it'll be a good meeting. I'm looking forward to it. Just want to remind you that the new payroll system. So I know you got an email from Caitlin today. So Caitlin's been working really hard with our new software provider on the new payroll system. So hopefully, I know she's a little anxious about it because this is payroll 1 and the first kick of the can, but just wanted to give you heads up that it's a new system. Your pay stub or remittance, it will look a little bit different when you open it. Infrastructure upgrades, I just put that in there for your information, Palliser and Pioneer Trail. I know we get comments, and I agree with people that those roads are getting in poor condition. So I've had MP just preliminary look at it. Those are 4 of the options that they came up with. I was okay with it until they told me, I was under the understanding that they were using Palliser Trail from the west entrance to Fox Lake Trail. And when they told me that they only estimated to Railway Avenue,
Oh.
I was like, no, that's not far enough. I said, we need to go to Second Avenue at minimum. So they're gonna get me some new pricing. You know, I can't remember, I don't know when the last time anything was done to that road, but with the traffic and the heavy truck traffic, it's deteriorating fast.
That's like 2 blocks.
Sure. Pardon me? Well, those estimates include from South Municipal Road on Pioneer Trail to the CN Reservoir. So it's 2 sections. And from west entrance to Railway Avenue. That's what those numbers reflect. But we need the west entrance go to at least Second Avenue and maybe further in terms of their price. And at that point, council can make a decision on how they want to move forward. So, and I never thought of it. I'm not a road guy. I never thought of it, but there was never a crown on that road. Or maybe there was many years ago. I don't know. So it's a pretty flat road. So that's part of the reason you have some issues is the water just sits there. So just, I know it's a project. We haven't approved anything to do any of this work, but I know it's, so I've got them working on some preliminary concepts and preliminary estimates so that we can do some more work on it. Council, I may come back to you and say we need, and I'm just throwing a number out of my head, $50,000 to get them to do a detailed design and get started so that we would be closer to tender ready if council decided to move forward. But I know we're probably not going to be able to hang on to that road for too much longer. So
Would there be, and there would be some sort of provincial money that could go, it's all our.
the only thing, Councillor Bowden, the only thing that I think, and I say it's all on our dime, but we would be probably trying to use as much MSI capital or federal gas tax. We don't have, if we move forward with our downtown redevelopment and the matching there, we're probably going to tap out
Mhm.
our MSI and FGT. So normally we would wait 2, 3 years, 4 years to build up a pile to go and do a major project. But I don't know if we can wait that many years with this road.
Especially with the increased traffic that's been on
Yeah.
it and
So,
the bridge.
yeah, so just wanted to bring you up to that. The other thing, a couple things, I always want to put my report together, what should I add? And then after I've got it ready, oh, I forgot this. The airport runway lighting, I think as council's aware, we were approved for some money from Alberta Transportation to replace the runway lighting at the airport. 75% funded by the province. So we've got, just getting started working with MPE on that project, on the design and getting it ready to go to tender. I do want to sit down with the Flying Club when the design is at a conceptual form and have their input and feedback on it. I know MP just did runway lighting in Oyen in concert, I think in the last few years, and I know they're in the middle of the project in Drumheller, so that's moving forward. Goal would be that project will happen sometime this spring, summer. Downtown redevelopment project. So I have retained MPE to start work on the detailed design for the downtown redevelopment project. We do have some funding to do that from Harvest Sky through their Canada Coal transition dollars. So it's not costing us, it's not coming out of the town of Hannah pocket to get the detailed design and get it to tender ready stage. And then based on where we're at with our grant, our government grant for the capital side will give us indication whether we go ahead or not. So there's going to be started on that soon. That will involve some more public consultation. So I know when 818 did their public consultation, they went through, we didn't get a great response from our downtown businesses. So they will be actually sitting down with our downtown business owners, talking to them about what their thoughts are with the concept, those types of things before they start finalizing the detailed design. So they are using 818's concept plan as their base. Certainly not written in stone, but they're using that as their base to start conversations with business owners and the public again. So, and just the last thing on my report is Tracy Repold has started as bylaw enforcement officer. So we're going to be doing some social media and some promotion in our newsletter that she started. Just primarily been working in the office, getting her file set up, getting everything set up. I think tomorrow her plan is to go out and patrol primarily for sidewalks that aren't shoveled, and going out there. You know, again, it's like anything else. We probably have 95% of our sidewalks done. It's 5% that we don't, that will be making notice or giving them phone call to say, you know, your sidewalk's not done. We'll give you, 3 or 4 days a week to get it cleaned up. So, and if they don't have the resources, we tell them there are private individuals who will remove the snow for you. And if you can't afford it, you can try our Hannah Cares, our Snow Angel program. There's never a guarantee there. It just depends on whether our volunteers are going to do it. And the problem with some of the bad ones, now nobody wants to shovel because they're packed so hard. So that's the trouble when you let it go. So she's going to be, that'll be her enforcement focus will be on that, on primarily until spring or till summer will be just on sidewalks. So she did deal with we'll have probably a provincial court case moving forward on a dangerous dog. So good. So it's a dog that's offended previously and
Repeat offender.
repeat offender. I think this will be the 3rd incident. So we're dealing with the crown with the province on that, so that the tickets will probably come through the RCMP, not through us. So that was, I think, first issues here that we had a call come in. So
Well, welcome to the jungle.
yeah,
And I don't think we're aware as of yet of which dog attacked one of our library board members, a little dog who actually had to.
yes, this is the exact.
It's the same dog.
This is the situation we're talking about. Yeah.
So a complaint was, yeah, I had an individual approach me about that, saying, I think it's the same
Yeah.
situation.
No, we had a phone
Provided
call. We had a phone call to the office and.
Or did you all?
And from the victims, yeah, the owner, And so Tracy actually knows that lady, so they've been back and forth. I think it's got to a pretty bad state. Last I heard, they thought that the dog would have to be put down, like the dog that was attacked would have to be put down because of the injuries, so.
They had him in Red Deer, brought him to Red Deer and is doing better with the medication, but internal injuries are terrible.
Yeah, so that's the kind of, she's dealing with that file through the RCP, so.
Good, thank you.
So that's it for my report. I did wanna mention under Kevin's report, a couple of things monetarily have gone wrong. So the shortly into the new year, our large hot water tank that services the dressing rooms and the lobby area failed. So it's an $8,000 to $10,000 hot water tank. So Kevin made arrangements and they had got one in and got it installed. So it's in. Nobody was having cold showers and
And the water not running in the lobby.
yes, so that was, and that's the nature of the beast. I told Kevin, things happen, and then he phoned me on Saturday morning. The large electrical motor that runs one of our two compressors in the ice plant crapped out. So he had Doug there and they were trying to figure out why the motor wasn't working, and Doug says, looks like the windings went and shorted out. So we've got one ordered. Danny, our ice guy, is picking it up in Calgary. I think the plan was he was picking up in Calgary today. He's gonna have it out tomorrow and install it. So we've been running on one compressor.
And of course, the weather is.
And the weather's been nice. The good thing is that the weekend was fairly quiet at the arena. I think there was only a couple games each day, and there was no Bonspiel on. But I know I didn't talk to Kevin today, but I know yesterday the brine went up. Normally it's around 18 and was at 22 fall. So they've been just scraping, not flooding, and but hopefully tomorrow it's up and running back on both compressors. So that's happening there, some hits there. And I think that's it. The other thing, just on Michelle's report, I think the interesting thing that I saw was, we did look like I hadn't heard much about it. When I saw our stats, I was a little bit surprised, a little bit happy that we have had 18 rides through the Drive Happiness completed. So that's I hadn't heard about that. So that's a little bit of a start to hopefully getting that program going. We still need more drivers. And drivers who would be willing to drive to the city. So. But as you can see, we've had 22 requests that we haven't been able to fill. So.
That's good though. I was worried that we were.
Yeah, we were just at the one for the longest time, and so I was really happy to see this. So I know it's still not a lot, but it's certainly moved us up.
Counselor Crowley, you look like you'd like to say something.
Yeah, I probably can. I did a call last week
Okay,
for the Learning Center. And this Drive Happiness was actually of no usage to them. I mean, you have to give them 24 hours
Yeah.
notice, you have to do this, you have to meet all their, whatever. And
And you have to have a volunteer who is able and willing to take that trip. So it's not perfect by any means. It's not an on-demand, I call them up, someone's gonna be there. Yeah, there has to be a little bit of planning involved. And again, because it's based on volunteers, you're only able to deal with what your volunteers are able and willing to do. So,
so is it limited to an age group?
no,
Okay,
It works well for flu shots and especially medical appointments to the city. It would work really well for.
if there's
If
drivers.
we had drivers that were willing to do that.
If
'Cause
people,
people know in
if people
advance.
know and can schedule and put their ride in the queue, you know, in advance, and then our drivers can look at it and go, well, I'm not doing anything today. I can take that one. They can click on it. They can do it. It's not real good at, I need to go to the store now. There has to be a little bit of planning involved, so. So I was happy with the numbers, even though they're still lower than I would hope and what I would want. At least it shows that it's building, so. But it's never gonna be your taxi. Because it's not gonna be instant on demand. So I think that's all I have for those three, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Unless there's any questions.
I got one there on that, lacrosse, like all the work that they're planning. Like,
Yep,
have they come and, you know, set up an agreement with, to use the hockey rink and everything? You know, like,
well, they'll set up a rental agreement like
Yeah.
anybody else.
that's what we're wondering, you know, before they do that, you know, like. They're putting all the expenses.
But we haven't done anything yet. We haven't ordered the nets because they're not 100% sure. They're gonna get the numbers and have a season, so
No,
if
that's what
if they do, then we will, so. I hope they do. Part of me, is I hope they do. It's an additional activity.
Yeah.
And it's the additional use of our facility.
Facilities. That's good.
But the age old problem you have is you only have so many youth. And if they start playing lacrosse, maybe that means they stop playing ball or, unfortunately, they all kind of run in at the same season, so. But hopefully they get off the ground.
Will that program fall under the kids' sport as well?
Well, it would be eligible. It would be eligible for registration through Kids Sport for low income families.
I know they're getting quite a bit of, and I shouldn't stop, I guess, because it's getting dropped off at the depot, so. I know there's been a few packages, actually quite a few packages.
So I know they did some fundraising and I know the Community Services Board gave them some dollars.
Yeah.
To help them get started up, so.
I guess that is my concern is that they're actually putting some skin into the game as well, and that it's just not falling back on council on the town to put the money out there and all the supplies and that sort of thing.
Well, it's no different, I guess, than minor hockey. So it's our facility, we provide the nets. They play, we bill them a rental fee and, so it'll be a similar
And that's good.
arrangement, yeah.
You didn't have any comments for Brent's report?
Well, I didn't know
I was
if,
just, anything else for,
well, I don't know if Lori had anything she wanted to add. I know she wanted to talk a little bit about pictures.
Yeah, I didn't, I don't have a written report this time around. But as you're aware, we need to schedule retakes for photos. And the February meeting won't work well for some. We have to have everybody in attendance, so I'm just wondering if people are planning to attend the January meeting at the end of the month.
The council info meeting,
Yeah.
another suit time, Dan.
I was gonna say, like, you tapping on your seat meetings here. Actually, on that note of information meetings, this. For myself personally, and then a morning meeting is a little more inconvenient than an evening meeting. Is that something that, obviously for staff, it works better during the morning? Just,
We found, Mr. Mayor, that it provides a variety of time then, so that it's not in the evening, there's one in the morning, there's not an evening. The other thing, it works well for
presenter.
presenters.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Who are normally working during the day, that's their job. They don't have to drive out here at night to present.
Yep.
So, but certainly council, it's in council's purview if they ever want to change it, so.
Yeah, no, it was just something that popped into my head. I mean, I've got a personnel that can cover the shop in the morning and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Is that one of the 25th?
yes.
The next one's on the 25th.
Unfortunately, I'm in Red Deer now. For medical.
We're moving into March.
The further along we are, the less time.
February 20, oh, that February
February
22nd.
22nd would work, yeah.
I don't think it works for the photography, if I remember
Okay,
correctly.
well, we'll check with
But
her.
I will, you'll continue to hear from me.
And I don't have much to add with Brent's. Obviously, they've been focusing on roads, spending most of their time on roads and stuff. As I mentioned to the mayor and put in the mayor's message for him to review in the newsletter, we're not planning to do a residential snow removal, total removal again. I think we've got our main arteries good, and I know they're just gonna monitor areas that get rough and monitor areas. Obviously, if we get more snow and have another accumulation, we probably don't have much capacity to not then do another residential removal, but I think most of the snow, and I'm not a roads expert, has packed fairly decently.
No. Not since this, weather changes now.
Well, since it's warming up,
It's warming up,
Yeah.
it's getting worse.
and that's when it'll get rough.
That's where it gets rough, but it'll smooth out after another snow.
Yeah, so we're
Counselor
gonna,
Kroll?
I've had about 3 phone calls between yesterday and this morning. The primary school property out there. You know,
Yeah.
where the primary school is. The town staff was up there cleaning the sidewalk.
yesterday,
Yeah.
Yes.
Wasn't Prairie Lands.
No.
doing that?
they do, we have a maintenance agreement with them. We take care of the sidewalks and the grass, and they take care of just because our residents use it as a park and playground, they take care of the playground and any expenses, but we take care of the sidewalks and cut the grass.
Okay.
Skate with Santa, the wreck. The most hits we've had on Facebook ever.
Oh, Santa Claus.
Yeah, no, Santa survived, and I think he made it out on the 24th.
Santa did a bang up job.
But yeah, it was, Santa's not prone to accidents either, I guess, so. So yeah, I think that's it, like I said, I just wanted council to aware that's where we're at with the road. We're gonna monitor them if they get rough. If we need to do anything, go in and do stuff, we're gonna go and do it, but we're not gonna stay, we're starting here and we're cleaning every road, the rest of the way, so.
Can I make a
Yeah,
comment?
sorry, Councilwoman.
I was out and about today and I asked some people if they had anything that they'd be interested in having me take to council. Pro and cons, and their first comment was they were very impressed with the way the staff handled the snow and cleared the roads right away and stuff, so. I just wanted to pass that on.
Yeah, no, it's snow removal's a hot
I know.
button.
It depends if you're getting the service. or
Depends who you
not.
talk to, some people think we're fantastic, some people think we need to do more.
Well,
Our couriers in town that travel in to newest communities, they we do a bang up job, so.
yeah.
So that's what the public works crew have been up to.
Any other questions of any of the committee reports? We give a motion to accept senior administrative officials reports 8.01 to 8.03 as presented for information. Dr. Bowden.
Sure.
All in favor?
Yes.
Carried. You want to have a little Rest there, he's squirming. He's nervous. He's nervous. I finally know you should.
He can come.
Yeah. Got a fire department.
Okay, my apologies for not coordinating with administration. I didn't realize we had them in this order on the agenda. I'd like to do them backwards, but it's okay, Chair.
Nothing would surprise me from you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So emergency management's very short. You had it in your report. That MEOC course. It's been a struggle for the last
Okay,
year.
don't use acronyms.
Municipal elected officials course, MEOC, clearly on the screen for them.
Which I can't see.
You can't see. I'm targeting February 22nd, but our main contact with the agency has now got a email kickback that says he's on holidays until February 1st and then is retiring. So I'm working on the number 2 guy in the department. So bear with me. I'm still trying to get you guys that course, but I really want to do it in person. I don't want it to be just where you log in and do it on your own online, because I don't think you get much of it. So that's main focus there. And the fact that we're looking to do the regional open house, this is a new thing, just got into it last week. So it's still ongoing. We're getting some good feedback from the government, from Wildland and Fire Smart Alberta, because we're trying to make it rural and urban together, the special areas. So stop and we got her.
We got, yeah,
So I picked the date in February, but whether or not it'll happen, it'll be up to them whether they can make it work. That is your council info session for February. The CEO thought maybe if I grabbed it soon would be available.
Well, it's easier because you have that in your calendar already than trying to find another date, so.
Okay, any questions on emergency management?
can we do all these in one, or do we need to do line?
I think what we'll do, Mr. Mayor, is Mr. Mole can go through all 3 and then I think just then.
So, okay,
I was gonna try to share this so that Angie can see it, but I'm not sure that I can, the way that it's set up.
What, just the power?
Do you want me to try harder?
No,
Sorry, counselor, you can come look at it later.
you can just text me any questions, Jones, I got you on here now, so.
Okay, so I put the development part at the front of the PowerPoint, so. I was unable to change that. If I'd read the agenda quicker, maybe I could have, so. And that isn't.
Am I allowed to text it to me? I know it's against our rules, but,
You might,
I'm locked
I
up,
think it-
can't scroll.
okay, now do it.
Try it with this one?
No.
Oh, okay. Let's try that one. Does that work? Okay, even better. Sorry for that. Okay, so 2022 number of development permits. I did make some changes before we were breaking commercial into new permits, addition permits. I did just go in with commercial as a category, industrial, residential, home occupancy. I added fences in. They weren't being shown in previous stats to you. Signs, I left demolition in, but I don't get a lot of detail into it because technically, if you look at the MGA, the demolition is not a development permit. So I'm handling those, but I think we're going to be looking at how we do them differently. So this is just a breakdown of the total numbers for the year as to where they were. Gives you a types by percentage, just if you're curious what percent of what. Fences and residential permits were 2 big ones that tied. And signs at 15% was our next. This is a 5-year comparison in total development permits for the last 5 years. So we're 1 lower than previous year, but above the average for the 5 years. So I think we're keeping in mind that 20 number COVID affected probably a little bit. Dollar values, just to give you an idea, in the last 5 years, we were a fair amount more dollar value, I guess, this year for having 1 less permit. But the last 2 years have been pretty good compared to 20 and 19. I think 20, you really look at COVID being
so,
the factor. Yes, Mr. Rick.
well, with the Husky co-op conversion, would that be multiple permits?
So all they require a permit for is the signage. They are doing cosmetic work. which if you go in and want to paint and change your blinds and that kind of cosmetic, you don't need a permit.
No, I just.
Yeah, no,
Here's
just
the,
yeah.
it's a very large project.
Yeah, like, they didn't take a development permit to be moving walls, like to be redeveloping inside. They
Okay.
said it was gonna be cosmetic. I haven't been down there this week to take a peek, to see what they're up to, but I trust, they've got some big corporations looking, they know what they're doing, right? So most of it was signage. They had canopy signs and they had the freestanding sign.
Which is changed.
But I was able to look at it all as one permit, just 2 pages instead of
Yeah.
1 page, so. Yeah, it's good working with some of the bigger companies like that, because they usually have people, hired professionals.
Yeah.
That I was dealing with, not with co-op, but I'm dealing with the company that co-op hired to project manage it, right? Even though it's a small project that it's being done good. Any other questions on the dollar value comparisons? And this again is what they supply us with. So when they say you're going to build a place, they give us a value. I have pushed back on a couple this year where I went, you can't add a bathroom onto a house for $2,000.
Yeah.
Externally onto the house for $2,000. I challenge you on that. Now,
That's what that little building in the alley is.
we'll talk later, I'm not sure. Keep in mind that Dale Kroll and Daryl Card's buildings are a big chunk of this, right? They've got 2 buildings permitted and under 22, so that's where a good chunk of this is in one main project.
Yeah, but there was a third that was fairly large.
Oh.
It's probably, it's in the report.
It is, and I actually think that one was high, but we'll see. You know, again, it's a corporation and they're being maybe brutally honest as to what they're doing. But yeah, I think I know
Oh, that one,
the,
yeah, the TransAlta,
I was gonna say TransAlta renovations.
TransCanada, I get them mixed up. TransAlta.
TransAlta.
TransAlta, it was at 553, and when they did that, I said, you're renovating inside or you're building a new building? And they said renovating inside, and I'm, okay, and I haven't heard any
It's
more on
very
it.
expensive.
It's gotta be,
It is.
which I don't you know what? It's great, they're doing development.
Some of the equipment that they're bringing in is actually coming through the shop and it's, yeah.
It's great until the assessor, I'm sure, assesses that property. I'm sure the property owner is gonna be extremely pleased to see what his new assessment is, but because it's gonna be looked at, right? If they're doing that extensive a renovation.
Yeah.
It's gonna bring the building value up, so it will affect taxes, right? But it's good. That's what we want to see is development.
And that's the other reason that we want to encourage people to take development permits out, because then it's flagged. And the assessor can go, oh, they did a renovation here, they did an addition here, I better go check that property out, see if it's, how it has changed the value of the property, so.
So moving on, this is just a 5-year comparison on commercial permits. So we're a little up, but pretty average, a little high maybe, but that's good. This is industrial. Again, what do I classify industrial? It's not just if it happens in industrial land, but you had a propane distribution. I didn't call that an industrial permit because it's not a big industrial. I took it as a commercial permit. There's some gray area there in how you classify things, right? So we used to have institutions separately. I'm rolling them into commercial. So if a school was to do it, it's a category that's getting used once every 10 years. It doesn't make sense to have it as a that line, right? Residential, little down, but close to the average, maybe a little below. I think you've seen the big spike in residentials during COVID. I hate using this word. I can't believe I'm saying it that much. But I think you had a lot of people decide, well, I can't work, I can't do anything. I'm gonna rebuild the deck or the fence or whatever. You know, I'm gonna do stuff when they're at that time. So I think that's why the spike, because if you remember hardware stores and that, you couldn't find stuff because people were buying it out, right? Home occupation way down. But a good steady 2 years prior to it. If you guys pass the land use bylaw, the new land use bylaw in the format that's in today, we'll see this even drop more. Because a lot of them won't require permits for what we're doing, but we'll get into that next week in the meeting at Palliser. You'll see what we're talking about, but if it's. I guess maybe I'm wrong, Kim. I guess it'll still affect the staff, won't it?
No, I don't think it'll affect the stat, because if you're a minor, you don't have to take out.
Don't have to take, that's what I was thinking. If you're a minor under a new one,
Or have to double check. They might have to still take out a development permit, but you can approve it. It doesn't have to
That's-
go through the.
So home occupation, that would be like a second suite then?
no, this is like you want to cut hair in your house.
Okay, sorry.
Or you want to sell your parts from you want to run a plumbing store and you have a van and you run from your house as your
This
business.
is an office.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Or if you sell certain products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Avon or something, is that considered? a-
yeah, and we'll get into it next week when we do the Palser meeting. And you'll get a break, you're gonna get to see it because it's a significant change that we're proposing to simplify it. So that if you are a minor, no, it's not gonna disrupt the neighborhood. It's very simplistic. It's almost a rubber stamp one that we can get it going quicker. And that you don't have to go wait for MPC or wait for the 21-day posting of it for somebody to appeal it. And because if you're trying to start up a business and you don't know this is a hurdle we haven't had to jump through, you're ready to go, and then all of a sudden you find you got this hurdle, well, development officer has 21 days to deal with it. Then it is 21 days for appeal, and all of a sudden you can be you can be at months down the road before you've gotten the go ahead.
So the history behind that was. With having to have a development permit as part of your home occupation business license, is that residential areas are residential areas. And not necessarily they're not zoned for business or commercial, so by taking out a development permit, we then can circulate to the neighbors to say, we've had an application to do this in this address, do you have any issues, concerns? Then they could bring them forward if they didn't want to. The one I always use, and it's gone by the wayside now. Back in the day, if someone had a VHS movie rental place if you ran it out of your house, it would be very, very busy 20 years ago. Could have 10 cars
Multiple
there at one
traffic there.
time, most of ours, significant portion of ours would fall in the minor category. Because they're not gonna be taking up excessive parking or have people there at all times, and so we're trying to streamline that with the new land use bylaw.
And we still have the outlaw. Assess it. One thing about home occupations is in our land use bylaw, and I'm pretty sure it's still in our proposed one, we do have the right at any time for MPC or council to revoke it if it becomes a problem.
We get complaints from the neighborhood.
Somebody stretched it from what they said they were gonna do to what they're doing, and because that can happen, right? You know, the bait and switch, or their business transitions to other ways. Yeah, or it transitions in what they thought they were gonna do in 1% of the time becomes 99% of the business, right? So we'll get into it more next week for you. Exciting stuff next week. Fences, we're up a bit. This is an interesting one because Municipal Government Act doesn't actually require that we permit fences, but we do permit it, trying to get them to make sure that fences are being built where they're supposed to be built. That we don't have them.
No, they're not going ahead and building an 8-foot or
Pellet fence.
A pallet fence and, yes, yeah, and I have to agree with the CAO that even though it's more work to do permit fences, it's an important one to do because if we lose control on it, we had a few examples this year where it went out of control in a hurry. Pallet fence, things like that you got to get on, right? So,
So a fence that was existing, tore down, replace is a permit.
We
Yes.
still ask for a permit just because it may have been built wrong in the first place.
Okay.
So a lot of times people will just say, well, I had a fence there before, I can do the exact same thing. Well, it was built wrong last time. You shouldn't have been 6 feet high in the front. It should have been 4 feet high. So, and the fact that our development permit is so minuscule in terms of the cost, it's not punitive. And Dave and I talked, he thinks we should charge a whole lot more, and he's probably right. But we don't wanna make it hard for people to take one out, and when you say to people, you need to take out a development permit, they go, oh, what's that gonna cost? $10. Oh, okay, where do I sign?
Yeah.
My argument
It's
with
gonna
that,
be, it's gonna be $100. I go, I'm not gonna tell them I'm doing this then, because it's gonna cost me $100. So
my argument with that is I've found I've had development permits taken out. And they don't follow through with the building permit because they weren't really sure they're gonna do their project, but the development's permit's $10. So let's just throw that in and have it go through. And even one that has resulted in MPC meetings for approval and then, yeah, no, we're not doing it. And it's like, okay, we spent
Yeah.
however many hours doing that work and you're paying me to do that work. I just think $10 is low, but that's just my opinion, so. Come signs, same thing, showing signs, that's gonna change a bit too, but we'll get into that again next week as to what requires and what doesn't require. This is one that in the first 30 days on the jobs development officer, that I threw my hands up in the air with the CAO and went, nobody's following it. And from what I can tell, none of these signs meet. Yeah, there's a lot to be done here to fix up on signs. So once we get the new one done, then we'll be able to get into it.
we're trying to, in the new one, we're taking less onerous on the requirements for permits.
Especially like portable signs are gonna be allowed without a permit. So Mr. Moore won't have to go pull a permit for every portable sign he puts up everywhere, every time he moves it. Because under the current land use bylaw, that's what he has to do as a sign supplier.
You could smile now, smile, little smile.
So
There you go.
we're looking at changes that will say there's still the regulations as to how close to the road it can be. It can't have little flashy lights on it to draw attention to it. There's still all these rules. But as long as you're following the rules, you don't need a permit for it. If you're breaking the rules, then Tracy will notice or I'll notice and we'll have Tracy as a bylaw enforcement deal with it if it's not being done properly. So, but we'll get into that more next week when we're in Palliser. We've got a lot to go over that night.
Sounds like a long meeting.
When he says
That's your
5 to
bedtime.
9, he means 5 to 9, and it's gonna be a busy night, very busy. That was all I had on bylaw, or sorry, on development. Is there any questions on development before I move into fire?
Do you know if? Sorry,
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
do you know if all the home-based businesses have been accounted for?
I've only dealt with the ones that have come across my desk requesting a development permit to start. So any new home-based business in 2022 that came in for a business license that didn't exist before should have been sent down to me to get a development permit. I know all over
The
22 ones.
question that comes out, Counselor Bowden, is sometimes our home occupations don't come to get a business
Exactly,
license.
yeah.
So we haven't been aggressively hunting them down through newspaper ads or social media posts to say, you've got a business, you need a business license. It's you know, whether we should or not, I guess is a determining factor, but we only deal with the ones that come in here who want a business license and then they have to take out the development permit, so.
And then I guess if somebody is questioning whether or not somebody has or hasn't, then it's up to them to file a complaint or
Yes.
inquiry
Yeah.
or something to see if it is or not, because I think that is something I've heard occasionally is that, well, I've got to have to, it's only $50 and but
Yeah.
still, some just don't.
It's
because-
100 for home base,
Oh,
yeah, but still,
ours is only $50.
yes.
Yeah,
Which is less
we
than a
do
home-based.
penalize the home-based,
Yeah,
which I understand as a property owner who's paying for brick and
yeah,
mortar.
the others are paying for,
I'm paying a
Frontage
water
or
bill of
whatever.
40 whatever every month, whether I use it or not.
Yeah.
It's only fair, I think, that home-based businesses maybe have a little
Well,
more
they're
upfront.
already, we're not getting any additional tax
no,
from them where
No.
we are from the storefronts.
Yeah.
Well, and you tax the residential at a lower rate than you
Yeah.
do the commercial,
Yeah,
exactly, yeah.
so.
Yeah.
You know, I can't run my dairy business out of the home-based. I don't think it'll fit in the, even in the major occupation. I don't think the neighborhood would appreciate that at 4 a.m, so.
Yeah, no, just
Yeah, and we have talked myself with Winona and Caitlin about when people come in to get a business license, these guys are pretty quick. They like to get it processed and here's your license. And I have stated on the home base stuff that we're almost now to take their information as an application. And they're just gonna have to wait till it's processed out before an approval comes back to Winona or Caitlin to say yeah, or to Bonnie to say, yes, you can issue this business license now. It's met the other requirement, right?
Yeah, just to ensure their information's up to date or any
Yeah.
outstanding fees or.
Well, we have to do a better job too. When somebody comes in for a business license to, make sure that, cause Bonnie doesn't necessarily know what the zoning is. So we have to do a better job to make sure somebody comes in for business license and it's a storefront and we just don't give it to them. Maybe the zoning is wrong for that permitted use.
Yeah,
So, and you'll find out again next week, there's some significant proposed changes in terms of what the land use districts are gonna be, so.
Be the most,
Especially on the commercial side.
on the commercial side, be the most significant change probably ever done in a land use bylaw in Hannah. Would be
Probably.
my guess.
Mhm.
We are talking a pretty. Yeah, please be there next Tuesday, because there's a lot to go through and a lot that Palser's been working with Kim and myself and going through it, and we've involved Winona and some others too, as far as the zoning, to take a second look at what they're proposing. I think there's some good things
Yeah.
from an economic development standpoint. I think there'll be some really good things they're proposing, right? You talk about the business licensing, and Lori and myself have had conversations where she's posting out the directory. So that's another step in there. That's not just to meet the zoning, but to make sure that everything's making it to her, to the directory, and vice versa. If we don't have somebody in the directory, we'll wait over here, they're not licensed. So, because I think you get the odd one where they're asked why they're not in the directory, and then we get looking, well, they're not in the directory.
You don't have a business
Because you
license.
don't have a business license, so why would we put you in the directory then, right? So there's some streamlining, I think, to go on here. It's almost like you gotta come in, and if you're an existing business, here's your business license, your renewal.
Yeah.
And if you're not an existing, here's the application form you need to fill out. And we need the 21 days to process it and get it back out just to make sure it's being done right. So, any other questions on development? Okay, I'll jump into fire. So current membership sitting at 29, full is 30. We lost one here a short time ago. Brendan Palmer resigned to move to North Battleford to be an RCMP officer. So we lost one of our young guys, which is too bad, but good for him. Good to see him doing good up there.
Good for them too.
Good for them. They got a good guy. We have a couple applications. I'm hoping to see one more come in, so I'm not worried about it. It's just a matter of us interviewing here in the next few months and picking which one to bring in. Training update. So as I've told you before, we have our East Central Training Partnership since 2005. Last year in 22, we completed 2 different NFPA 1002 pump courses. So we taught them maintenance and driving, and we taught them how to run a pump, which is now 2 separate courses. Used to be one way back in the day. And then, what's that? 1001A or Pump A probably in your
Pump A,
day,
yeah.
and Fred's day would have been Pump A. Now it's these 1002 2 courses. Used to call them chapter 4, chapter 5. Now they changed again. Hazmat awareness and ops, which is used to be 972, is now 1072. So we taught both those courses, and that's just to get them up to a awareness stage and a basic operations stage to be of assistance if we were to have a major, and to recognize that we're having a major event and know when to slam the brakes on and evacuate and control the scene and keep people from coming in where they shouldn't come in. That's more what we're after on those 2 courses. In fall and October, we started a new 1001 firefighter 1, which is your basic firefighting course. And usually we have 24 students. Now we're at 29. It's scheduled to be completed in May. There's just a shot of one of the guys doing that training in the tower, outside of the tower, actually. Burn tower update, phase 1 and 2 are both completed. Phase 3 is the installation of exterior burn props. So includes purchasing and installing of all of our outside props. Project cost on that's $581,840, or it was last time we priced it. My guess is with steel and everything else that it's went up.
You're on 700,000.
I hope you're wrong, counselor. I really do, because I can't fundraise as fast as it's going up, which is causing me a problem. So that's to buy props like this, a car prop, which we need to have an actual car prop to be an NFPA now. And then this is a quad that we can put different devices on. Here it's got 3 different 2 different propane tanks and a flange prop right now. You can change this out and put different props on it, bring a forklift or Bobcat, take them off, set it up for whatever training you're gonna be doing that night or that weekend to change it up a little, give them some variation. We've applied for a CFEP grant for these props. We're waiting to see if we get it. If we don't, then we'll move into the next phase of trying to figure out where we can get the money. Cause we really want to get it built and get going. It's holding up our training for what we can do now, because we can do the 1001 level 1, but can't do the level 2, which is really starting to mess up our training plans with our guys to get them completed, get their seals and have them trained and kind of finished so we can just maintain skills instead of teaching them. Yes, Counselor?
Is that a matching grant?
Yeah, right now it's a 50-50
50%?
and we have the 50. The fire association is fundraised enough. We have our matching half. So if we get the grant, we're good to go. We have our money in the
Okay.
bank to match it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're not gonna come to the town asking
Nope.
for more money?
Not for that.
Thank you.
Notice I said not for that.
Okay, that's-
No, at this,
Quote you?
Write it down on which date it is.
no, at this time, we're not. If we don't get the grant, we may be looking for some financing to finish it off. But I've got some other irons in the fire right now on that as to what we can do. So we'll go from there. And we really want to get it done so we can get our site work done, because Special Areas has committed to the gravel and all the site prep. They've done a lot of it before, but we're kind of waiting now before we can finish. So
Have you looked at any industrial partners, Dave?
we haven't chased hard right now. We were still going this route because there's other things we still want to do, Danny. Or sorry, Mr. Mayor,
Oh, it's fine.
where we're gonna be using like a tank for the foam, doing a wedding cake, different things in the next phase.
No, I
That's
was
where
just
I'm
thinking
hoping.
with these props, like, you know, the producing companies in the area would be beneficial to
Oh,
some of their, well, you've actually done some with me as far as training, so with, I'm looking at it a big scale thing. You could go to a CNRL or a Brave Providence or a North 40 or whoever and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Are you interested in partaking?
We did go out, Pembina had a program where they
Yeah.
opened up. Pembina bought us that flange prop that goes up, across and down. Unfortunately, I need everything else under it. That's the expensive part first. And that prop just for that flange part is $5,000. Pembina did give us $5,000 to buy that one piece of the prop. I was hoping they would give me the 500,000 but I got 5. So, which we're happier than anything about. Counselor?
are you doing any training on electrical vehicles?
Yeah, it comes under the firefighter 1001 firefighter 2 under vehicle extrication and rescue, and it is ever evolving. Right now, I'm looking at taking a couple courses this spring, instructor courses on the newest. It is changing so fast. The biggest thing is don't cut yellow and orange and have lots of water. There's fire departments now getting dumpsters, like the big tractor trailer dumpsters with the end gates, and rolling the burning vehicle or winching the burning vehicle into it, closing the watertight gates and filling it with water and leaving it for a week. That is some of the stuff they're coming up with on the all electric, that you can submerge the batteries for days and they may still burn.
And even then, now you have contaminated water
Oh,
Yeah.
that you can't just open the doors and drain it out.
they're a nightmare. The only good thing other than the CAO, nobody out here wants to buy them until they absolutely have to. So,
You're looking at buying an electrical vehicle.
I'll buy one day, as soon as they get figured out the technology a little better and more charging stations.
and I'm replacing everything that's gas and diesel in the last year that I possibly can and running them as long as possible.
Well, and he's probably not gonna be retiring in Hannah, so.
No, I have confidence that they will, well, they will. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, you won't be able to buy anything else.
You know what's worse than electrical vehicles? I can deal with electrical vehicles, 'cause it's pretty easy to follow the safety on them. What's concerning me more is the hydrogen
Fuel.
fuel cells. You know, I've seen some pretty horrible pictures of city transit buses in the States or in Europe running hydrogen, and when one of them tanks gets
They go completely.
Compromise.
It's-
Compromised, they burn like so fast you can barely get anybody out of the bus. Like it's unreal how fast they burn. So I'm more concerned about some of the other new technologies that we're gonna be dealing with other than just the electricals, but.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's getting added into our courses all the time. We just keep. And looking at doing some supplementary stuff too, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so year in review, we had 152 incidents last year. Compared to our record year of 165 the year before, so 152 put us the second busiest year ever. 2017, which is just off your chart now, 6 years ago, we had 146, I believe, 145, 146. So we did surpass that to set our second record again. Town versus rural, we're in town 78 times, we left town 74 times, so still pretty even. This is a 5-year town versus rural, just to give you an idea where we are. You can see year previous, we were out of town a lot more than we were in town because of the grass fire spikes that year, but just to give you an idea over a 5-year comparison where we're at. Typically, we're less in town than we are in rural, so little flip this year. That's not normal, but they're very close. This breaks our incident locations down a little further to Alberta Transportation, which is any primary or secondary highway from the fence to the fence. So a grass fire along the road can be a Alberta Transportation call. If it's in the special areas, it's a special areas call. If it's not on a primary or secondary, and then our mutual aids, we put in that category also. So 31's a little low for transportation calls for 22 compared to some years. Again, a lot in town, right?
But mostly due to medical assist.
You'll see that shortly. 5-year comparison going the same way with those categories, just to give you an idea. Definitely the spike in town this year becomes a little more when you look at it this way. Last year was pretty high in town though, too, at 65. Right, but look, just 3, 4, 5 years ago, our average is in that 40, low 40s, right? So it's substantially more that we're going across town, somewhere in town, right? So breaking it into categories, are false alarms. Did 20 this year, up from last year, but nothing that's really alarming to me as far as repeats or anything like that, right? Grass fires definitely down. Did under half what we did the year before.
Which is bizarre, as dry as it was, I was totally amazed.
I'm not,
Really?
no fuel. It was so dry because it got dry the end of the year before and it carried through.
Yeah.
There was nothing to burn or to grow. And we've had this for years. When you look back at 15 and 16. And they were dry, we didn't know, or 16 was wet, 17, we had all those fires and everybody couldn't figure out, geez, it's dry, we're having all these fires. We never had them before when it was dry. It's because we got moisture.
Yeah.
And the country grew great. And then they took the moisture away and we're left with everything they grew. And because our cattle here, everybody has the right amount of cattle to graze what we normally grow. When you get a awesome year of moisture, we don't use up all those pastures. We don't use up all those hay fields. You know, and we end up with more bale stack, more being storage, which that goes into this grass fire. I should put grass feed. It also includes bale fires under this category too. Medical assists, the one you're asking about, Councillor Bodine, just keeps outpacing. At least we didn't grow. We didn't double this year, thank goodness. Because
But you look at 2 high years of 2021 and 2022, especially when you talk about town calls. It seems like the majority of your medical assists are in town.
about 3/4, I'd say, or more. Yeah, just without,
So,
I can
so
get to that.
that's a big reason why, there's no doubt about
Oh.
it, is your medical assists.
Yep.
Now, can you say whether or not medical assist deals mostly with drugs? Or not?
I could say, but I don't track it that way. I'll tell you in 2021, yes. In 2021, we ran more drug calls than I've ever seen us run in my 30-some years on the fire department. We exceeded it in 21, all put together. And we had some bad ones. We had some fatality ones. I'd never seen Narcan administered till probably 2020. And in 21, it became common to watch Narcan being pulled out and the syringes going in and the nasal sprays and, you know, almost where our guys are becoming common about it. Like we actually practice now giving Narcan needles to pool noodles. They simulate pretty good the muscle texture in the shoulder. So we actually cut up pool noodles and practice injecting outdated Narcan into pool noodles as a practice to get the technique down because, and you gotta, when we're doing Narcan in patients, they come awake, if it's gonna work, it works. Just about like, TV's actually got it accurate where you see them give it to them and all of a sudden they snap awake. The only thing the TV doesn't show is usually they snap awake and then they swing.
Then they.
Then they swing, they go violent instantly. So when you're giving them, you don't have time to be in a compromising position, give them and then look at them. You need to give it and the person with the needle with the sharp needs to get out of the way. And the other people got to be ready to contain. So it's, you know what? I'm not a drug user. I've never been part of that scene, never seen it. And to see what I seen in 2021 was just unbelievable eye opener to what's in the community. The number of times we've seen it and so I'm happy to say in 22, we didn't run as many drug calls. We still had them, but not as many. We ran more EMS not available, distant, you know, they're however many miles away. A lot of them too are dispatch errors. The dispatch from Red Deer sends it over to South Central to HS. And sometimes they're sending us when they're just not supposed to send us. We're just not meeting the protocols and we're still fighting with HS to try to stop sending us when we're not supposed to be sent.
So does that go in those numbers then?
Yeah, it's still a call. We had one Sunday night that technically didn't fit our dispatch protocol. We went and when EMS got on scene, they're like, no, you guys weren't needed. So we turned around and came back home. So
Right, you
it does
still have a
happen. Yeah, it does happen though, right? Miscellaneous 13. Pretty standard. Rescue MVA 35, we're down a little bit from where we were previous year, but I'd say more average than anything. And 5 of them were the last week of the year. We ran 27th, 29th, and 2 on the 30th with the icy roads around here.
Yeah.
So we just did a ton that last week of the year. So otherwise that one would have been down in the 30s. Structure fire. I'm happy to say we're back down to more closer to average than last year. Last year was an extreme spike. Whereas this year we were down substantial and most of them being in the special areas other than unfortunately the one that we're all aware of. Was in town in late November. Vehicle fire is pretty average. This category includes farm implements. So if a combine catches on fire or a tractor, that's captured in our vehicle fires. It's not just passenger vehicles. Percentage breakdown of incident types as to what we do. So 37% of our time is medical assist. That just gives you an idea. You see the structure fire at only 3%. And, you know, and it's our most dangerous type of call or one of our most dangerous. And that's why we have the training tower. Because we need to give our guys time on in the tower, trying to hone those skills, being proficient in it. Because they don't get a lot of real world practice when you're doing that 5 calls a year on average. And you figure out a volunteer department, how many guys are on that call, how many missed it. You know, you might only make 1 structure call a year, or you might make only 1 in 2 years as a volunteer firefighter. So that's why we key so much of our training on it like that.
When the ceiling collapsed, which was only within a half hour of the fire starting, the ceiling collapsed. So you're talking all that weight and all that furniture on the 2nd floor was now on the 1st floor, which is why, didn't it take 2 days to burn out?
Day and a half. We had some spot fires that night and we put 3,000 gallons of water on it the next night just before dark. Just to hit the cup. Time of day. It's an interesting stat, one that the CAO asked me to put in a long time ago. Again, we do most of our work in the afternoon, noon to 6 o'clock and 6 o'clock on.
Summertime.
A lot of it is, what's that?
Supper time.
Supper time, yeah, we missed, yeah, out tonight, went off at supper time.
Cooking, yeah.
Cooking, right? I mean, we had one tonight was cooking incident that came in 22 or quarter two or whatever, right? Like, comes in as alarms ring and we don't know what it is till we get on scene or if we get stood down by the alarm company before we get there. You get a lot more of those these days just because people have alarm systems.
That's interesting with the alarm system, the day of the fire. I'm standing in my shop watching that fire and my alarm in the shop goes off and I'm looking at it going, are you fucking kidding me? Excuse my language, but
Now, could it have been because of the way the wind was blowing?
I have no idea.
Yes.
Wow.
I have no idea. All I know is, like I said, I'm literally standing in there. And the way the alarm system works on a commercial or an industrial is the first call goes to the fire department, second call comes to the landowner or property owner. And I was standing there in the building when it went off. And so they phoned me and of course it wasn't 5 minutes later, Brett, so you're not really on fire. No, I'm not. Thank God.
So I was going down the QE2, we won't say what speed, trying to get back. And
Speeding safely.
I'm talking to Ole on the phone and I hear tone out on the radio. I said, what do you got? He goes, I don't know what's going on there. And I looked at my phone and went, you got an incoming alarms call. And we're looking, trying to figure out if it was Hannah Motor or you. And I'm like, well, like I called you later and said, you
Yeah.
burned 2 down in one day. I'm going to bring in arson investigators. Because, you know, slightly suspicious, Mr. Mayor, but yeah, we did not need that during.
No, I
He
did.
didn't, Mr. Mayor didn't need it either.
No, as I'm looking out the window, like I said, and I'm going, well, let's not get it.
I hung up. I just said, well, you got a lot to do. I'll see you in 2 hours when I get
He
there.
was pretty happy to see when I met him at the door.
Yeah. What day of the week? Just another percentage shot showing what day this year's winner was Tuesday. This has no pattern from year to year to year. It's not like, oh gee, it's always the weekend or it's always Monday or whatever. I do use it a little. Our weekend coverage is what we always worry about on a volunteer department. It's always been that way since the day I joined. You're never as worried during the week as you are on the weekend about in the summer, whether guys are gone or not.
And to me, statistically, your Friday and Sunday with travel and so on and so forth, I would have thought when you're.
And they might have been for MVAs. If I broke MVAs down, they might have been the spike days. I don't break it down that fine or we'd be
No,
here
that's-
till 10
yeah.
o'clock tonight.
No,
So I got any questions?
Moon cycles. Does it affect you?
Yeah.
I just love to see
Medical
that.
calls.
Statistically, full moons.
Yeah.
Wackadoodle. It's
Yeah.
just-
No, without pulling numbers, my gut reaction is a yes.
Yes.
It just seems to, especially in the summer, more than the winter months, which I don't know why. People like to get out and do dumb shit when it's,
and the moon.
Bright moon. I don't know what it is. It's just, but there is, especially medical. Ask EMS. EMS gets the crazy amount, so we're getting a bump out of that, right?
And the moons also affect production in the oil patch. Hugely.
Okay. I'm not gonna answer that. Any other questions
No.
that I can answer? Thank you.
Which other hack do you have on?
That's it. I'm done, Mr. Mayor.
Motion to accept Mr. Moll's reports as presented for information.
We do one,
One at a time.
yeah, fire first.
Okay, fire first. Council accept Hannah Fire Department quarterly report for the fourth quarter, October to December 2022. Thanks to Fire Chief David Moll for his presentation this evening. Motion, Council Murphy. All in favor? Yes, I got it here.
Oh, yeah, they're.
She can't talk now either, so. Development permit report, council accepts the town of Hannah development permit status for 2020, statistics for 2022, fourth quarter. Activity report for information. Thank you to Development Officer David Moll for his presentation this evening. Motion. Counselor. Somebody, Farrell, all in favor? Got it. And last but not least. Let's just get emergency management. Motion that council accepts the town of Hannah Director of Emergency Management 2022 fourth quarter reports for information. Thank you, the Director of Emergency Management, David Bull, for his presentation this evening. Motion. Councilor Murphy,
Sure. Right here.
all in favor? Carried. This was good. 9.04 real estate.
So, Mr. Mayor, we talked about this in December. And council directed us to put out an RFP. So we did. So on December 15th, we created an RFP, sent it out to our local realtors. We advertised it in the Hannah Herald twice and numerous times on our social media and through our website and on our e-news subscription. We only had the one proposal that we'd received for the December meeting from Mr. Wallace. Was the only local real estate person to respond. So we are recommending that we enter into, and before it was a 1-year extension, I'm recommending we enter into a 2-year agreement because we just went out to the public. That way we're not bringing it back again in another year's
Spend
time.
a bunch of money for nothing.
So a 2-year term with Mr. Wallace. So if there's any questions, I'll answer them, but that's where we ended up. So
Questions, concerns? Seeing, hearing none. Chief Administrator Officer be authorized to enter into an agreement with Harvest Real Estate to provide real estate services for the town of Hannah as per the proposal as presented effective December 15, 2022, ending December 31st, 2024. Motion. Councilor Murphy, is there a motion or a question?
Yes, I thought it was Harvest Sky Real Estate, but I see that.
Harvest, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
Councilor Murphy with the motion, all in favor? Let's go. 9.05 Municipal Enforcement Services 2022 report.
I don't have much here, Mr. Mayor. The report from Officer Erickson was what it was. Some of the highlights I put in the background. So they did 370 hours of total enforcement time. Had 108 files. Broke it down to 3 general, 17 animal, 21 traffic, and 43 unsightly. And 12 tickets were issued. So that's really all of it. Mr. Erickson, or Officer Erickson, is away on vacation, so he couldn't be in attendance tonight. So if there's any specific questions, I'd have to go back to him.
So there's 108 files, would that be 108 notifications then, or just?
It's 108 contacts.
Okay.
So sometimes there's not a report filed, but it might be a conversation or a knock on the door to them just to say, you know, I'm passing by, I noticed this. So 108 different contacts. So the other thing that's in this package, I combined them just for your information, was I know in August, council gave us direction to put a speed bump in on Shaker Crescent. So at the August 9th meeting, we had a report from their automated traffic system that council used for information. We did have them go back after this speed bump were off just to see if there's any difference. And I think that the key comparators, the key thing that the 2 things I noticed: one, the traffic volume didn't change much. I know the previous one they did in late July was just about 4,000 traffic movements in a 2-week period. They did it for a 1-week period, and it was just under 1,900 traffic movements in that week. Difference being between July and October, highest recorded speed in July we knew was 82. The highest recorded speed was in October was 51 kilometers an hour. Average speed eastbound in July was 34. In October, it was 27. Average speed westbound in July was 32 kilometers an hour. October was 17 kilometers an hour. The percentage of vehicles speeding eastbound was 75.8, slightly up in October, 85.2. Vehicles speeding westbound was 56.3, down to 31.6. So I can't say.
Gotta love numbers.
I can't say for a fact the speed bump was what made the difference, but we did try it again and just wanted to give you that information back. My fear from the first decision, my fear moving forward is just how we're going to deal with other requests, because I think we will get other requests from other residents about people speeding down their alley.
Well, I
guess-
think the justification is
traffic.
sheer volume.
Volume on that is
That's
way
craziness.
way different than any
Seriously.
other alley. Yeah,
I think there's 4,000 vehicles probably around.
because you might have a alley that there might be 10 vehicle movements in a day,
Yeah,
but people think they're speeding, so.
that's 220 vehicles a day.
Yeah.
Well, 220 times, it could be the
Vehicle movement.
Yeah, so,
Repeat
but,
vehicle
yeah,
that
I'm
is
just saying, but that's
going
220
6 or 7.
vehicles down that alley.
It's
10% of our population goes down that alley every day. Every day.
So that certainly is one indicator, you know, that you can hang your hat on, that alley will be different than any other alley in town.
It is.
So I just wanted to, that's all I have on this and this, Mr. Mayor, unless there's any questions.
Okay, recommend motion to council accept municipal enforcement 2022 statistics, including the 2022 Shaker Crescent traffic alley or traffic information for report. We'll give information for. Council Kroll, please.
Yeah, sure.
You were just waiting for me to ask you. Council Kroll would like to make a motion. All in favor?
Oh, well,
Yep. So, I knew I'd get something out of you eventually. Bylaw enforcement.
So it's just a simple one, Mr. Mayor, just having council appoint Tracy Raypold to the position of bylaw enforcement officer. We have entered into an agreement with her to provide that service. This is just officially appointing her to those duties.
Any more discussion? Council Bowden?
Is there a request then or a requirement for dealing with difficult clients and sort of conflict situation? I think there was a comment that there was some negative correspondence with some residents, and it was not a very comfortable situation for both. Just to protect herself as well as
In regards to what training or in
Yeah,
regards
yeah.
to, that'll be part of
Will be
the
part of-
training course she's taking.
Yeah.
Or
I
will
would
be
imagine
taking.
it's a standard.
Yeah, unfortunately, this position that will happen and does happen is.
Yeah, but just to give her the
Yeah,
extra tools
no,
to deal with.
that'll be
this,
part of
sure that is
part of the
that.
training program.
Perfect. That's all.
Kind of like the development officer. Motion to council accept or appoint Tracy Raybold as position of bylaw enforcement officer for the town of Hannah effective January 2023. Councilor Bowden, all in favor? Good to go. Oh, now she's putting the time in. Oh, this is awesome. Bylaw, land use.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'll just run through this one. So, property that, owned by, Mr. Dale Kroll and Mr. Daryl Card. I know we've talked about it on different occasions. So they have a piece of their property. So in the package, you'll see, I don't know if you want to go to that page, Lori, with the subdivision application. It's probably defines the best. Well, so that's their, everybody knows that's their lot. It's one lot right now. So keep scrolling, Lori. So this is their revised subdivision application based on the land swap the town made or authorized at our December council meeting. So this is the triplex that's there. This is the duplex here that's facing Fifth Street. This is the one that's under construction, but a little further behind, facing Fifth Avenue. They're left with this small parcel on the west end and not big enough to do anything other than a single family home. The land is zoned, the entire block is zoned R3, so multi-family. So they've got a rezoning application in to Palliser, which we're hopefully going to give first reading tonight, to rezone this piece here to R1. So it allow a single family house. So first reading, basically, council gives the bylaw first reading, that starts the process. So then what will happen is the neighborhood, residents in the neighborhood will get notified by a letter that this application has been submitted. When the public hearing will be, and any opportunity to voice any concerns they may have with it being rezoned. And then we would advertise that as well in the paper, the public hearing. And then at our February meeting, we'll have a public hearing. And following the public hearing, council will then consider second and third reading for that rezoning. Administratively, we support it. There is basically R1 across the street. This is R2 or multifamily, and then because that's where the villas are right here, and then it's basically R3 there. So we're supportive of it. And I guess if there's any questions from council on the application, I'll do my best to answer it.
So with the portion that we have now.
Yeah,
There was, and forgive me for there was a mention that there was an encroachment from the villas on,
there is actually an encroachment. Well, I don't know if I don't know if I would call it an.
yeah, I don't
encroachment.
know, I just popped into my head.
They do have a sidewalk that
I
crosses
see it in the
technically,
picture there. so-
yeah, right here, right there, the sidewalk comes in through there, which is their property. This will be the section we have.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so there's a little bit of you want to call that encroachment, it's not encroachment building wise, but they are utilizing that property.
They dumped concrete on not their property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, I wasn't
Yeah.
meaning encroach, I didn't know what to
Yeah,
call it.
no, that's, yeah,
The buildings and everything else in that area are okay. Everything's where it's supposed to be as far as we can tell. It's just they cut across with the sidewalk.
Well, it's easily,
well, back in the day, there was a synergy because it was the lodge property and the Villas Manor, so it was a bit of a synergy, so.
One complex, basically.
Yeah, so you can utilize it all the same, and so we're recommending that it receive first reading and go through the process, and then we'll hear if there's any concerns from any of the residents or public about having that rezoned, and then council can deal with it at the next meeting and grant it further readings if they so choose.
Councilor Bowden?
I'm sorry, is there an age, like, is that? Those were kind of somewhat deemed as 55 plus, is that correct?
There's nothing.
Not really.
There's no homeowners association, there's nothing that says you have to be a certain age to own. It's just became that age group that has found interest in them and purchased them. So there's nothing to stop, a family with small kids buying that house.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
Or the
Or
existing duplex.
teenagers.
Or even the existing duplex, if one
Well,
of
I
the
know they're all
existing,
sold.
no, but if one of the existing
There's
owners
no
wanted to sell their duplex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's two that are rented.
Oh, no, but I know one's just along, the one I'm concerned about is the one that's being voted on and whether or not, say, a group of teenagers, like a family with teenagers, being that there's seniors on either side, if that is a concern or not.
I don't think so. My personal opinion is I don't think so. And as David had indicated, you could have somebody who's got an existing owning half of a duplex who are gonna own it, who are 55 plus. There's nothing that says they can't turn around and sell that duplex to a family with teenagers.
Or move the grandkids in.
Yeah, there was no
So,
conditions on. the
There's
development
no
permit.
conditions, there's nothing that says you have to be 55 plus to be here, so
That was
I
my
think-
question.
no one can guarantee it, I think they've been obviously marketing to that age group, and I think their clientele that they've been discussing with, and I think they probably tentatively have this one sold or had someone very interested in who probably fits that demographic, but I can't guarantee that.
And you gotta look across the street, their family residents,
Well, most of them are older family residents.
but they weren't originally, most of them I could go through, they've been old families that
Oh, yeah,
had
yeah.
kids and.
Yeah.
But that can change, right? As people move on, you may find a different demographic living in those houses, so.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
my-
Stevens Crescent where we are, when we moved in there, we were one of the only families up there, and then now it's, yeah, we're the old guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was my concern.
Yours is
with it
I know.
You know, with the lodges and with the manners there and that sort of thing, whether or not that would create an issue or not. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so can we get a motion that council can give the first reading to bylaw 1029-10-2023 land use amendment? Council authorized public hearing for bylaw 1029-2023 to be held on February 13th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers at the town of Hannah office to allow any person who claims she will be affected prejudicially by bylaw 1029-2023 an opportunity to be heard that counts by council, and further that notice the public hearing advertised that the required notice be sent to owners affected by the properties as well as adjacent landowners. Counselor Crowe is.
We need two motions, Mr. Mayor. One for the first reading and then one for the public hearing.
Okay, sorry.
First reading.
So would you like to do the first reading for Counselor Crowe? Counselor Crowe, like the first reading. All in favor of the first reading? Carried. Public hearing motion. Counselor Thurl. All in favor? Why, my phone just lit up here. Okay,
Yeah, that isn't a, that isn't a conflict of interest.
council reports, round table. Counselor Crowe, you wanna go first? See, I got you wide awake and everything.
Nothing to add. Mine.
Okay, Counselor Bowden, anything to add?
Nope.
Counselor Murphy,
I submitted it late. I do apologize, Mr. Mayor, but I've handed out a copy to everybody.
Counselor Farrell,
Well, I attended the community, or will be attending the community service board meeting January 30th. Along with one on January 17th at Palliser Regional Municipality. And I attended all the budget meetings. Instead of week.
Just one note here, how many people did they serve at the community Christmas?
About 300.
300? Okay. No, I don't recall seeing it in the numbers. It was one of those things that it's an amazing thing that our community puts together. Counselor Kroll running around picking up potatoes and vegetables from various places and different colonies donating and it's just, yeah.
So it's an awesome thing. It's well done. And it's a great event.
Counselor Kroll,
On last Wednesday, that hot meal that
Yeah.
Hannah Learning Center puts on, they had 55 attended.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, and then they started.
It's just like, it's just overwhelming, like being used, it's just.
I asked Kim, you would know, we got some hamburger, we gotta get rid of, to make room for some new, meat coming in, so would they be
If
willing to take about 30 pounds of hamburger?
it's packed,
It's already individually 1 pound packs that were done in July,
by,
with meat packers at Provost.
as long as it's been packed and
Yeah.
it's gone through government inspection, you
Yeah.
can accept it.
It was one that we had butchered and then we just won another critter and we got one
Oh, we
already.
feel really bad for you.
Yeah, that was nicer to get that letter. So we gotta make a lot of room.
I'm going tomorrow. And, if you like, I'll ask Barb and
Yeah,
the rest of the committee, and I will arrange with you that when you come pick it up.
yeah, I can get it delivered in there, just so that mom and dad's. See, we got dad into town now, everything's under lock and key, so.
yeah. Motion, okay. Motion to accept the council reports for information. Counselor Bowden, all in favor? Good to go. Correspondence.
I don't know if there's anything to add or highlight, Mr. Mayor. I don't know. I didn't read through the ambulance transfer announcement. So, I know that they're trying to do their best. We know they're not being successful at this moment in time. I don't have the answer. Hopefully they do figure it out as they move forward, because, we talked about earlier, our fire department is much more involved on that side than we want to be. And hopefully they get that figured out, so our patients get the service they deserve and they expect. So nothing else really to add, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Nothing else? Motion to accept correspondence for information. Counselor Kroll. All in favor? That means that. That's somebody's face. I mean, that's scary. It wasn't Counselor Warwick. Do we have a closed session tonight?
Nope.
No. Motion for adjournment. Done.
I have one.